So I recently saw a post by James Barnard where he talked about his approach to color halftones inside Adobe Illustrator. And it reminded me of a recent experiment I'd been doing using 3D Inflate inside Illustrator and using color halftone to add some texture. So I thought it'd be a good chance to compare both approaches and run through my process to show you how there's some alternate ways to use color halftones inside Illustrator. So first thing I have here is essentially how James went about his approach using black and white gradients on a transparent mask applied on top of shapes. So I encourage you to check out his video if you want to see his process. But first things I'm going to do is run into mine with 3D Inflate. So with our red shape here for the base of the apple, what we want to do with our appearance panel highlighted, we will go under FX and then 3D materials and then select Inflate. Now you see that we get a nice rounded shape with some highlights and shading happening. And if we use our axis rotation, we can move this and see that we don't actually have a back end to this. But if we go into our 3D settings, you can check Inflate Both Sides. Now that gives us a fully rounded form to play with and adds a little bit more dimensionality. So under lighting, we can move the toggle around and control where our light source is coming from. And then we can go back into our appearance panel and we can apply our color halftone underneath Pixelate color halftone. And then with our settings here, this basically refers to your resolution of pixelation. So I have 20 pixels here. The higher you go, the larger the pixels will be, obviously. But under channels, we're going to keep it all the exact same degrees so they'll overlap with no misregistration. And then if we just hit OK, you can see we apply our color halftone. Now, why I like using this process is the non-destructive workflows working with 3D and being able to dictate where the light source is coming from and manipulate it as we see fit. So if we go back into our 3D here, we can go down to our lighting and then we can play around with our lighting color intensity. So if we bring this up, it's going to make our highlights a lot brighter and decrease our shading. But we can also play around with our ambient light by temping that down so our shadows get a little bit harder. And then we can, again, just sort of play around with this, pushing and pulling, changing it up. Now I want to add a little rim lighting around here just to soften the edges. So back into our appearance panel, if I go to FX, Stylize, and then Inner Glow, now you can see we have a nice white soft light here, but we want to actually make that the same red as our base of the apple. So in our color swatches, the same red we're using for the apple, and select that. And then we want to make that a little larger. So we'll increase that to 30 points and hit OK. Now if we zoom in here, we can see that we have a soft glow, but we actually want this to be impacted by the color halftone. So that's where layering comes into play here inside our appearance panel. Now if we just click and drag our inner glow to go above the color halftone, we'll start to see that it actually becomes impacted by the color halftone effect. And then just like James did in his video, we can create a graphic style based on this appearance panel here. So if we go into our graphic styles and simply click and drag our option into here, and then with our leaf, we'll click on that graphic style, and then all we have to do is go back into that appearance panel and change the coloring, the green, and then in our inner glow as well. And then we're just going to decrease the blur on this to get a little bit more shading, hit OK, and then we'll do the same for the brown here as well. Graphic style, click OK, and then we'll go to inner glow and we're going to turn that down a little bit as well. And then we'll change this to the brown. And then the fill color to the brown as well. And then we can just move that to be the center there. And lots of potential there to play around with and approach color halftone a different way than perhaps you would with a typical transparent mask. But I'll be sure to link James's video down below if you want to check out his process. But I think there's a lot of potential here to play around with 3D inside Illustrator that maybe gets overlooked. So please leave your comments, let me know what you think. And if you get to test it, please let me know how it turns out.